Good evening and welcome to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. This is Raf streaming to you live high above the keep in the hot air balloon. Tonight I have GuyKid with me. How you doing, GuyKid?
Doing well, doing well. How about you?
Doing all right, all things considered. Yeah, Neindorf is hitting the hay early tonight. So GuyKid graciously decided to come on and join me here at the last minute. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I wanted to throw together a quick podcast. Obviously, a ton of stuff has gone down over the last 24 hours or so now, and I thought it'd be good to have a YouTube stream and I guess just kind of talk with the YouTubers and Discord community out there with where my head's at, what I've been thinking about, and hopefully get some alternative perspectives from anyone else out there who wants to chime in. So, GuyKid, why don't you tell me? I guess let's keep it. We'll dive into this pretty deep here in a moment. But one sentence or less. How was your day?
Day's been interesting. I've got a 1 month old at home, so very much in the sleep deprived state right now. And I woke up at 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning, and first thing I do, just pretty much like every morning, is I open Discord, saw what was going on in the community, checked the jewel price, and was like, "What the hell happened last night?"
Yeah,
So, so it's
yeah,
been an interesting day since then, as things have kind of
right.
developed from since then.
I actually had a kind of a similar story here. So, the wife and I we went to a concert on Thursday night, and instead of staying overnight, we decided to drive back home. So I was running on about 3 hours of sleep going into Friday. Did some things, and decided I was gonna go to bed early. And then thankfully, the wife. So I took the kids Friday morning to daycare and to school, and then so Saturday was my day to sleep in. Slept in and woke up to Neindorf texting me saying, getting crushed in the gardens, which is kind of like, well, what's new? That's what's been happening the last week or so. And then he started talking about, yeah, he's like, I'm starting to transfer Jewel. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I jump in on Discord and I'm like, oh my God. This is just absolutely wild. So I've been spending probably the better part of today trying to figure out what's going on. Neindorf and I actually hung out in real life, had some beers this morning, probably too early in the morning when you really shouldn't be drinking beers, but there
Well
we were
deserved.
doing it anyways, um, and starting to just try to kind of wrap my head around this and figure things out. So, um, GuyKid, kind of putting you on the spot here, but do you want to give your understanding or kind of a brief overview of how you understand what's gone down in the community?
Yeah, and I've been trying to like dissect it throughout the day too. Like this morning I kind of like read a bunch of messages and was like, all right, there's a lot here. Um, but basically there's been a lot of chatter on the Twitterverse about the initial funding wallets to basically fund the game at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out one of the main liquidity wallets is from an early adapter of the game or a supporter of the game. And they've been using that to actually play the game, invest in the gardens, buy heroes, things of that nature. Um, so just in relation to all of that, there's been a lot of speculation as to what's going on around that because it said the original doc said that money was pretty much going to be locked from the beginning. So that's kind of developed from there, and Frisky responded to that, kind of basically admitting that the wallet that was posted in the docs was the wrong wallet. So if people kind of looked at the original founding wallet, it would look like a nothing burger, but the actual wallet, once addressed and fixed, has a bunch of activity on it. Um, but that just in relation to that too, Frisky basically apologized for the mishap and then responded pretty quickly to a vote of basically hearing more info from the community of how the community wants him to go and address this.
Hmm.
And I thought that was a pretty drastic measure of basically putting a vote out to say, hey, do we want to continue business as usual? You want to have Frisky step down as kind of leader of this project, or does he need to be removed from the team entirely? So I know I kind of rambled a little bit there, but what are your thoughts here? Anything you want to plug from maybe some details I missed or anything like that?
Yeah, I think you summed it up as well as I understood it. So, I mean, I think there was a couple other elements to this that were um, cause for concern, or there were funny elements of this, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong here. So one piece is that the in the white paper for the founding papers for the game that describe how the funds should be used for this specific wallet, it states that funds are not to be claimed, and so this is for initial liquidity only, and it was going to be matched with the pair of one, and that the funds are not supposed to be excuse me, I used the incorrect word there. Funds are not supposed to be withdrawn or sold from that initial dollar value that's in there. Now, I think here's where the rub is for many people in the community, is that there are rewards, since that isn't a liquidity pool, there were rewards created off of those initial funds. And it appears that those rewards have been leveraged. Um, and I think that's something that, my understanding is, it's not explicitly stated that those rewards cannot be used. It's more inferred depending on what side of this you're on. But I think that was another one of the big pieces. Is that how you understood it as well?
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are upset about, of the fact that rewards are being used and
Mm-hmm.
benefited from. And I mean, personal opinions out there as to how you feel about that. I'd be very curious to kind of see if this event happened when Jewel was at $20 versus at two. I
Yeah,
think that's adding a lot of emotional state to kind of how everyone's looking at this as well.
I agree with that as well. Um, and then the other piece out there, and I don't know if I want to get into this too much because this is a lot more hearsay um, than there's evidence, as far as I know, to support this. But it's believed that those funds came from a another, I'll call it, failed project, and a lot of people are accusing that other failed project of being a rug. And I think, again, I'm hesitant to call this, factual at this point in time, but I think that has added some fuel to the overall fire, as I understand it.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that other project. I've been trying to do a couple Google searches on it. If anyone in the chat has more info on the project or any follow-up comments or questions there, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah. So I guess kind of I'll try to tie up in a bow my thoughts on this, and then I'd like your commentary as well. But I think it is interesting that when this is happening at the current decline in jewel price, I think it's obviously adding a lot of angst and pain to this that might not have otherwise been there if jewel price was at $20, like you said, or even at $10 or $7, something like that. Um, you know, while this feels, um, I guess, rough and there's a little opaque, I don't feel like, I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel quite like there's evidence enough for Frisky to really be offering to remove himself from the game. I think that's just it's felt a little strange to me. That's almost felt worse than finding out what happened. It feels like the punishment is a little worse than the crime itself, which certainly makes you feel a little skeptical about what else could be going on behind the scenes. But I think that there is a little too much, While this is while this is built on the blockchain, which is based around transparency, I don't feel like anything here kind of crossed the line that would call for a removal of someone, especially with um, the amount of success and effort that has gone into the game on his behalf and the amount of trust that the entire DeFi Kingdoms team has established and built up. I think if they were trying to rug us or dupe us, I think they could have done that in thousands of different ways, at different parts in the timeline of this. And I guess I would say I still full heartedly believe in this game in the long run, and I think this is just going to be a blip on the radar as we look back. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, right now, the leadership vote count, 94% of people say no change should happen at this point. So I think the community overwhelmingly agrees with you there. I do like that they're taking quick action of basically making sure the voices are heard across the DFK community, and
Mm-hmm.
the leadership team's responding. I saw in chat here that someone mentioned the leadership team's doing a roundtable AMA tomorrow at 11
Mm-hmm.
Eastern time, and I think that's a very good reaction from the team. But I mean, as far as what to do here, it's helping. It's shining light on the fact that this is very much a crypto project, and there's going to be volatility. There's risk associated with it whenever you put um, any kind of stake in one specific spot. There's risk associated with that. So we just be careful, be safe out there, and look at what each of you are doing personally, and it's you got to make a decision for yourselves.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. Having gone through a couple of the upswings, the first time it hit 10, and then when it hit 20, I remember feeling so bulletproof and invincible about the game of oh gosh, this was just a genius decision to invest in this. And I remember there was some tweets going around comparing what the current price of Jewel was compared to the total liquidated values, and then comparing that forecasting of like if it reached the supply of Axie, what would the price of Jewel be? It was like $100 a Jewel. And I remember kind of feeling, just taking all my profits at that point in time and doubling down, just pouring everything back in the game. And when it sunk, then that next time, I think it went down to 6 or 7 on that dip there. That hurt. That was painful. And that was I would say, an experience that built up a little bit of scar tissue for me. And as we started to swing up again, and as many of our listeners know, kind of from Neindorf and my journey, we ended up selling off a good portion of our profits in the game. And I would say, don't try to time the market. I think while I'm trying to look back at this and realize that I may have gotten a little lucky with how I performed, and that I sold everything off. And so don't take this as financial advice, and also don't try to time the market either. I think the right thing to do is make sure you're taking profits out that allow you to achieve your goals in whatever investment that you're working on in life. And I think that when you're able to do that, you can kind of decouple yourself from some of that risk. And like you said, it's the crypto space. It's very volatile. Things go up and things definitely go back down.
Well said. Yeah, you're looking like a genius right now for that ten
Yeah,
dollar withdrawal.
like I said, I think I got a little lucky there. Well, so where's your kind of your head at right now, GuyKid? Are you thinking about, I'm gonna lay low for a few days, staying clear?
Yeah,
What are your thoughts right now?
my kind of original thought was, hey, everything I'm seeing, it feels like it's gonna be short term, short lived, but perception can sometimes be more powerful than reality. The entire community thinks this is a big issue. Even if I don't think it's a big issue, then it's a big issue. So that's kind of where I'm hesitant of. I'm very curious to see how this roundtable goes tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to do anything personally before the roundtable, but I've definitely benefited on some of the perks of Jewel being lower. Pretty much all my heroes I have rented for like listed on the rental market for some type of price. And in the last 24 hours, I've had two rentals that are over 60 jewel apiece. I've got a
Nice.
rare summoner that rented for 115 jewel.
That's
So
excellent.
yeah, so and I actually looked up the person. They ended up getting an uncommon sage out of it, so it looks like it worked out for them
Hey,
too.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. I
Win-win.
think along that note, that's something that I've been thinking about is, I have a ninja that's 5 of 5 in a rare, and I've been thinking about personally finding a pair for him, whether I buy a summoner or rent one. Because it feels like the cost of summoning in terms of real world dollars is so low right now.
Yep.
It hasn't
Yeah.
been this low since, gosh, it's got to be August, September timeframe, maybe. So
It's
it's been a
before
long
I
time.
got in the game. I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah. I jumped in December. I think Jewel was at like it hit 20 at that point, but it was usually hovering around 10, $15. But
yeah,
yeah, summoning seems cheap. Like a lot of the and it's interesting because a lot of the game mechanics when Jewel's at $1, $2 is drastically different. I'm very curious to see how the tavern reacts. I've
hmm
been staring at that Gen Zero market, and I'm like, all right, Gen Zeros are now valued under $10,000. Like that's interesting.
I
So
know.
is the price of Jewel going to recover where Gen Zero you could really see some returns there? Um, but I think summoning is going to become more profitable again with Jewel being so cheap that people aren't going to worry about maximizing the price of everything. We'll see potentially some more opportunities there in the market on the hero side.
Yeah, I right now I'm looking at the Gen Zero market, and at the floor there is a warrior pirate here for 4,500 jewel. Um, so that's an astonishingly low price. It hasn't been this low since before quests were out, before Wishing Well. Um, and so I've actually been staring at the Gen Zero market as well. I've not pulled the trigger on one. Um, I think for the most part, I am. I think as most people know, so Neindorf and I had a pair of Gen Zeros with someone else, and we got off of those. I would say I'm a little bearish on Gen Zeros right now, just because when the price of Jewel does go up, the cost of summoning is so expensive, and it feels like, and also the supply of heroes is so high that without a built-in hero burning mechanism that's stays long term. There was the perilous journey, but that came and went. Um, I feel like when your Gen 1 10 out of 10 summon market, your commons cost more than 60 jewel, that you're in a situation where you're always going to lose, or your worst case scenario is losing when you're summoning. And I think that's just a bit of a rough place to be. And with that said, I think the price of Gen Zeros is so appealing right now, and I really do believe that the dev team, they like Gen Zeros, and they are going to put new features into the game in the future that allow you to benefit from Gen Zero, similar to on the Perilous Journey, how they provided a safety net boost to the survival rating of your other heroes. I can see them adding boosts in other ways, whether it's in combat or in tournaments or in yields when land becomes fully functional or something like that.
I think land's going to be the big one for Gen Zeros. I agree with you there.
Yeah. Speaking of which, something else that I was poking around at is the price of land today. Um,
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
I
so
didn't even think of that.
land right now, there was one plot of land that was going for 30,000 jewel. Um, and I mean, just, to put that in perspective, I mean, you're looking at what, like 35 grand total there, for that. Now, right now, the cheapest, the floor is 33,000 jewel. To put this in perspective, when land first minted, I think the lowest dollar value one I want to say was going for something like $250,000.
Well,
Um,
I think it was 35,000 Jewel when Jewel was at $8.
yeah, so I mean, just an insane drop in value, or increase in value, I guess, however you want to look at this, but a drop in price on buying land, and I that's one that I personally do not have a stack big enough in the coffers at home to move on land.
Yeah,
Um, I joked with Neindorf that we should have taken a real life loan out when land was so expensive at at $8 a jewel to get real life mortgage for virtual land. I'm so glad I did not do that.
seriously.
So something else out there, if you're bullish on the game long term, something to think about.
And that's interesting
Yeah.
too, because like at that price point, like that was the price point of Gen Zeros 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like roughly when I was looking at the Gen Zero market, I was planning on spending, 25K plus on a Gen Zero if I was going to make the jump.
Right.
And I wasn't ready to do that, and I'm glad I didn't. But that's almost the cost of land at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if you have a trusted friend out there or a group party. I think you could see some really ultimately I could see some guilds being created on the back of this dip. Um, because they've made it pretty clear that guilds are going to be central to the element of land, and that to have some kind of in-game guild hall, you're going to have land that allows you to support that. So that's something else that I've been thinking about watching. We do not have a DFK alerts on land. I asked Neindorf for that today while we were drinking beer. He said that maybe we could do that, but that there's probably not a big request for it. So he shut me down.
Funny.
The other thing that I've been looking at is looking at Lockjewel. Um, and I know this is a bit taboo, but I've been looking at the Lockjewel market, and I think if someone is going to go down this route, and again, this is all not financial advice, but um, you really have to put in your mind's eye, where do you think the price of Jewel is going to land once the game stabilizes in the future? And I think for a very long time, well, for a while I was saying $5, and then with the over the last month I've been saying I think the game is going to land somewhere between um, $2 and $3, and I still feel that way right now, even in our current state. And so as I'm looking at these jewel bags, kind of my rule of thumb is, how do I make sure that if I'm going to go out and buy some lock jewel, that I'm kind of protecting myself or hedging myself against that risk. And so I'm looking at some of these, and I'm not going to spend $31,000, but 59 cents for that bag of $31,000 that I have up on screen right now, for 52,000 lock jewel. What are the odds that the game stays above 59 cents? I'm pretty confident that in the long term it's going to, and so then that's probably a play that's worthwhile. Now, I feel like when you compare and contrast to the land, I feel like the land is going to be more a high risk, high reward. I feel like this is a little more low risk, low reward. That if the game is going to stabilize at $2, you're looking at maybe 4xing your investment at most here, which is still pretty darn good. But if you look at something like land, I could see that potentially going back up to its future value, and that might be like 10xing your investment. So, what are your thoughts on Lock Jewel? Have you been perusing this market at all, or do you stay away from this?
I stay away from it. And it's just crazy. There's definitely people holding lock jewel balances that are still at $4, $5 in jewel. They
Yeah,
previously bought 3, 4 months ago, and it's just I'm coming back to there's just so much uncertainty of at a total market cap. I mean, even though jewel price is at 134, the total market cap still 500 million.
yeah,
So it's like there's still theoretically, 400 million that could leave the ecosystem. It's still $100 million project, but that puts the value of jewel price at 30 cents.
yeah,
So it's just a matter of hey, do we get to like a full game state? Like I'm also kind of curious, so like at these lower like $2 and under prices, like how does dev compensation work? Do we have any issues with devs now potentially being undercompensated, underpaid? I don't know anything about kind of how much they're compensated for their work. I know it's shared a little bit in the bounty wallets and things of that nature, but I'm curious at these low price points if there's any other ripple effects in the game.
Hmm.
But when I looked at Lock Jewel, it's yeah, you're betting on the success of the project. If the project is successful at the end of the day, yeah, I think you'll see positive returns on those Lock Jewels.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'm jumping on to YouTube here to see if we have any good questions we should address. We have Blackwing saying, "Should I spec my Dark Knight for vitality, strength, and agility instead of intelligence?" Um, do you want to let's go ahead and get to this light question. Get off the heavy stuff here for a moment. What
Yeah,
do
I'm
you
pulling up
are you a Dark Knight user?
I've got a couple. I've got a Dark Knight that's got a bunch of strength. I do like Dark Knights with strength. I do like Dark Knights with intelligence as well, so that's kind of anti his point there. I'm just pulling up the stats.
That's
I mean, strength roll for a Dark Knight is 85, so it's like I think strength is the no-brainer, yes. Should you spec them for Fight Strength Agi instead of Int? So I guess it's really Agi versus intelligence is the debate of vitality and strength seem like the two obvious yeses. So agility is only a 35 for a Dark Knight. That's
yeah.
actually really surprising to see.
Yeah, I
Um,
would stick with me personally. I'm gonna stick with all the high rolls. I feel like this is a game that's really built around min maxing. Shout out to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. Navigate over to the combat corner page if you want to look at how your heroes are, stacking up compared to with all the different statistics. When I look up intelligence, I just have it brought up from the DeFi Kingdoms docs. It says intelligence adds a multiplier to various actions, especially skills and magic, and modifies magic evasion. And so it also plays a role in MP that's gained during level up. Because their wisdom isn't that high, I don't feel like um, the Dark Knight's going to be using spells, but I do think the intelligence is going to be related to their skill usage. And so it might be something like the way that they're using their sword, in a way that you can
yeah,
use like
yeah, I think
a
like
sundering blow, or something like you can cut someone's hamstring or something. I don't know. I think it's going to add to their skills, and given that they have a very high strength, I actually think that those two will pair well together.
I think they will too, and so I played a decent amount of World of Warcraft in my days, and the card stats remind me a lot of Death Knights in WoW, and how Death Knights work is you could basically put curses on your sword,
Hmm.
and you could basically layer in like curse touches that would be a bunch of like damage or time dots that you could put on as almost like bleeding effects on your enemy. And so I think that intelligence aspect will filter into something like that.
All
Like
right.
strange strategy. I'm just trying to figure out if we're even answering Blackwing's question or not.
Yeah. Well, he said he already pot committed to agility. Well, go for it, man. What do we know?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I
First,
think I mean just kind of taking that to like a generic question of so I think you had mentioned it. Do you always pair your 100%, 50% guys rolls with the top stats on a card? Or are you trying to do any mismatches like what we're talking about here, where a Dark Knight only has 35% chance of agility?
hmm
But if you try to level up agility every single time, and it can actually become a top stat on your hero's card.
yeah, I have not done that yet, and I think the heroes that I would look at that for would be maybe like a dragoon or a monk, because they're a bit more generalist, and so with those heroes, I'm thinking you're not trying to play the min max game. Instead, you're trying to play the average number of stat points game. And so you might actually benefit from, making your guaranteed bonus statistical level up going towards something that's a little weaker to, boost the chance of your total average stats. That's what I've envisioned, but I've been on the fence of buying a Dragoon for forever, and especially over the last 4 weeks. And I recently just bought a Fast Ninja, so I have not pulled a trigger on a Dragoon yet. But that's something that maybe we could transition to next is just looking at the hero market and trying to look for some deals out there.
Take a peek.
So, are there any heroes that you've been thinking about buying besides a Gen Zero out there?
So I've been looking at the market a good amount over basically since Perilous Journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got three pairs of Gen 1, so six Gen 1s pretty much teed up, ready to go summoning. So my whole debate is I don't know. I don't know if I need any more heroes. Like
Ah,
I'm happy
sure.
with what I have. I'm sitting at a stable of 27 heroes right now, and then
Nice.
I've got three Gen 1 pairs that will produce another 12 heroes for me as well.
So,
So
are you sitting on 10 out of 10 summons with them, or have you been solely summoning with them?
I've been waiting for uh the hero market to pick back up before I started summoning. So my whole idea was I was going to get them to level 5 before I started summoning to get those extra stat boosts as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got my first monk pirate pair. They're now at 7 and 10, so I've started that. And I've actually already hit a rare ninja on that, so that pair is paid for itself.
Nice.
But my other two pairs are still 10 and 10, and I've been waiting for an uptick on the market. Basically, been doing like a summon a week for now.
Nice. Yeah, I have not summoned in the last since the incentive ended before the perilous journey. The incentive for Crystal Vale for getting raffle tickets for Gen Zero Crystal Vale heroes and for the Crystal Vale rewards. I actually haven't summoned since then. No, that's a lie. I take that back. We had a few. I had a few Gen Zero, maybe one or two Gen Zero pairs. Um, One right before the perilous journey and one after. So I've summoned, maybe 3 times since then. But for the most part, for me, that's darn near nothing compared to what I have done before. As I've been looking at the hero market, I think it's again not financial advice, but with the price of jewels so low, I mean it is a bit of a buyer's market out there. If you're not sitting on a stack of jewel, I think that the jewel price will be high, but the U.S. dollar cost is going to be low. And so at this point in time, I'm targeting maybe some of those heroes that were otherwise out of financial reach. So I've been actually looking at, um, a legendary dragoon as a hero that I'm thinking about getting next. And before a legendary dragoon, they've held their jewel price about even, right around 1,000. I guess the floor right now is 1,200. A few days ago that was, three, four, $5,000. Now it's about $1,200, $1,300. So that's a big difference and makes that a lot more potentially obtainable.
Yeah, looks like floor's 1,200 right now, and then a legendary sage is the floor that's actually Gardener for 950
Ooh, so
with blue
that's
wisdom as well.
that's a pretty good deal. I'm gonna go pull that up at the moment. Yeah, 950.
Yeah, no advanced abilities though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And that was
so
actually a. Go ahead, you go first.
I think the next one, the 1080 one, is has an advanced ability. I've been looking at him for a while.
Nice. Yeah, so Seahawk was mentioning, since we're kind of chatting about advanced abilities here, do you think the advanced abilities, like the basic 1 through 8, will be the same for all heroes? and taking it to the sense of Crystal Vale heroes versus Serendale heroes? Or do you think with Crystal Vale there's going to be new abilities which would then affect mutation chances?
Hmm. Um, I do not think that there's going to be more abilities because when you look at the data on the blockchain, they actually have, and I wish Neindorf could talk to this because I kind of take his cheat codes and then I build the BI reports off of it. But
Nice.
if you look at the way that they have heroes, the classes numbered, so it's like the first class is 0, and the second class is 2, and the third class is 4, and they have it alternated, and I think it goes all the way up to, I'm gonna get it wrong because I can't do math on the fly, but I think it goes all the way up to like 24 is a transcendent class, and essentially there's enough for both sides of the DFK chain, and so there's Serendale, which has 50% of all the genes, and then there will be all the expansions that contain the other 50% of the genes. And as far as I know, the abilities are just listed 1 through 8 for the basics, and then for the advanced as well. And so they didn't use the same kind of staggered numbering system that I would say leads me to believe that they're gonna say stay set with the same abilities for those basic abilities and the advanced abilities. With that said, I think they are going to change the skill tree to match the new classes when those do come out.
Yeah. So skill trees will be different, but
Yeah,
those abilities from the card perspective will be the same based
I'm
on
I
no
that's
buffers
what
in the
I'm
blockchain,
guessing.
which makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great question. All
What are
right.
your thoughts on summoning with Gen 2s? That's like a big no-no for me unless it's an advanced class.
Yeah, I have not. I you know what I my strategy before I hit pause on everything was actually trying to go after pure Gen 1s that have that dominant and that recessive being the same 10 out of 10 summons. I'd summon 5 times and then I'd dump the heroes after that. And so um I would
Yeah,
say
I've definitely got a similar strategy too, and but so it looks like Seahawks looking at a minor Gen 2. So you can make a case for minors since the floor for minors, although after this exploit, the
yeah.
uh the exploit fix, the floor minors is almost the same as the floor regulars. There's only
Yeah,
5K
yeah,
difference.
make sure you do the math and see if it's worthwhile. Yeah, I'm sitting on. Well, I'll just bring up my heroes right now. When I look at my with my miners, and I have not been summoning. I've just been buying. And I did add a couple miners here recently. All right, so heroes, attributes. Yeah, I have a Archer that's a Gen 2, and I'm down to 2 out of 8. And he's a purple strength, too. And so, like, I had a Thief to pair with him. Um, and, you're getting a chance at a purple strength Dark Knight, but I wouldn't do it. So, maybe if you're still at your, 9 out of 9 summons or, 7 out of 9 or something like that where your cost of jewel is not so high, but I mean I just recommend everyone look at what your cost to summon is compared to your cost to buy, and if you can buy cheaper, I'd almost always do that.
Yeah, because basically, if you get two Gen 2s that are 9 out of 9, your summoning cost is going to be 52 jewel, and the floor for miners right now is 42.
Yeah. Yep. Great question. All right, well, did ask or state, couldn't they just do basic 9 and 10 that leads to advanced 5? Yeah, I think they could. That's certainly a possibility. So, I think, I'm just guessing at the fact that they didn't stagger this, but they staggered everything else, that they would use the same kind of architecture for structuring the genes. But we don't know. So that's a possibility. All right. Well, we're kind of tailing off here now. Anything else that you're looking at, or you want to ask our YouTube community out there?
I think nothing really. It's been an interesting day, high emotions day.
Yeah.
DFK wasn't built in a day. I don't think it'll I don't think it'll crumble in a day either, but we'll see. So, stay safe, stay responsible out there. Wish everyone best of luck. Try to stay sane as much as possible. If you got time tomorrow, tune in to the dev team's AMA tomorrow. I'm very curious to see how that pans out.
Yeah. Yeah. Echo those thoughts. Make sure with all the investing that you do out there, hopefully this is just a reminder, and not a rough experience for you. But if it has been a rough experience, lean on our community members out there. I mean, we're all kind of going through this, at this time. So hang in there, and try to, what I find is, and as I'm trying to make decisions about, well, it hasn't been me, but Neindorf, as I'm trying to help him make decisions, use a buddy, ask them for advice, write out your different alternatives, make a decision matrix for yourself, or a flow chart of, if this happens, then I'm going to do Y, X, Y, or Z. Not that you always have to, make all of your decisions in life by flow chart, but I find that writing things out, certainly makes me, take the time to stop, think about it first, and try to help me avoid any rash decisions. So, stay safe out there. Good luck, and take care. And thanks for tuning in. All right. Well, for GuyKid and Neindorf, who couldn't join us, I'm Raf, and